Good evening. Welcome to this Democratic primary debate in the race for controller of New York City. I'm Errol Lewis, political anchor here at Spectrum News New York 1. I'm joined by Brian Lehrer of WNYC Gothamist and Alyssa Katz of the news organization The City. Starting this Saturday, early voting will be underway in New York City, with primaries being held in key races beyond this one, including for mayor, public advocate, and the city council. Primary day itself is on June 24th.
So tonight, you'll hear from the two leading Democratic candidates running for city comptroller. The seat is currently held by Brad Lander, who is running for mayor. Tonight's debate is brought to you by the New York City Campaign Finance Board. That's the city agency that administers the public matching funds program. It's also sponsored by Spectrum News New York 1, WNYC Gothamist, and The City, and Spectrum Noticias, and our co-sponsors, John Jay College of Criminal Justice, the Craig Newmark Graduate School of Journalism at CUNY, the Center for New York City and State Law at New York Law School, and the Museum of the City of New York. And you can watch tonight's debate without a paywall on ny1.com. It's also being broadcast on WNYC Radio and the Spectrum News YouTube page, and in Spanish on Spectrum Noticias and YouTube.
Before we get started tonight, let's run through what a city comptroller does. The comptroller is the city's chief financial officer, a watchdog who keeps an eye on spending and looks for waste and mismanagement in government. The role often serves as a balance on the mayor, at times coming into conflict with City Hall. The comptroller also oversees the city's 5 public pension funds, and the comptroller is a politically prominent position, with many running for higher office.
The two candidates joining us tonight met a polling or fundraising threshold established by the Campaign Finance Board in order to take part in tonight's debate. Justin Brannan is a city councilman who represents parts of Brooklyn, and Mark Levine is the Manhattan Borough president. Now for the rules. The rules that you see on your screen have all been agreed to by the candidates. Each candidate will deliver an opening statement of up to 60 seconds. Answers to our questions must generally be limited to 60 seconds with a chance for rebuttals. And both candidates will get to ask their opponent one question. We're going to begin with opening statements. The order was determined by a random drawing this morning. We'll begin with Mr. Brannan. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for tuning in tonight, and thank you to our host for having this important debate. I'm Justin Brannan, city councilman from Southern Brooklyn. I grew up working class. My mom's a teacher. My dad was a salesman. My wife's a small business owner and an art teacher. Growing up, I wanted to be a member of the Ramones, not a member of the city council. I'm a very unconventional elected official. 3 chords that I learned in public school afforded me a career as a world touring musician. I always loved helping people, and I was drawn to public service, so I ran for city council in the neighborhood where I grew up, and I worked my way up in the council to serve now as finance chair, where I oversee the largest municipal budget in the country at $115 billion. I'm running for controller because in a time like this, we need someone who's going to ensure we stand up to the next mayor, whoever it may be, and stand up to Donald Trump. The city is spiraling out of reach for working families, and our budget is the sharpest tool we have to bring down the cost of living for you and your family.
Thank you. And next is Mr. Levine.
Thank you, Errol. This is a moment of enormous challenges for New York. We have the worst housing affordability crisis we've ever faced. We have real public safety challenges, and we face a dire threat from Donald Trump. I'm running for comptroller to take on these fights. What you'll hear tonight from me is a positive agenda of how I'll use the powers of the office to fight and win on behalf of New York. This is what I've done my entire life, since I started my career as a bilingual math and science teacher in the South Bronx. I went on to take on the big banks and found a credit union, together with Errol Lewis, in Uptown Manhattan, that's made $100 million of small loans in the neighborhood. As a city council member, I took on corporate landlords and made New York City the first place in America where tenants now have a right to an attorney in housing court. I've taken on this mayor and the last mayor to win for tenants, for parks, for public health. As comptroller, I'll continue that fight no matter who the next mayor is, and I'll push back against the agenda of Donald Trump.
Okay, thank you very much, candidates. Let's get to it. We'll talk about the role of controller first. In many ways, the most important role of the controller is to act as a check on other elected officials in government, including the mayor and the city council. So there are times when you may have to make a fiscal decision that would be good for the city, but might be bad for you politically. I'd like to ask each of you to give us an example of a public decision that you made knowing that it was going to be unpopular. We'll start with you, Mr. Brannan.
Sure. I mean, look, being an elected official is about sometimes having to take unpopular stances, but for the greater good. And certainly in the city council, where you serve as one member who has to look out for your district, but you're also sum of all parts of one of 51 members, there are times when you have to take votes that you know are good for the city, but might not make sense or might be hard to sell to your own constituents. There have been zoning votes that I've had to take because I want to build more housing that I know, even if it's not in my own neighborhood, that people might be against it. But because we're in a housing crisis, I took those votes. I worked really hard to pass behind the scenes in the room where it happened to get the city of Yes passed. And that was not easy. And there were a lot of people in my neighborhood who maybe didn't want that to happen. But I got it done because it's my responsibility as an elected official to do the right thing, even if at the time it might not be popular.
Okay. And how about you, Mr. Levine?
Again and again, I've taken on tough fights, whether they've been politically popular or not. I supported congestion pricing because we have a transportation crisis in New York with travel times in Midtown and downtown dangerously slow and an underfunded mass transit system. And I stood up and supported this policy even when it was politically unpopular. Now that it's been a resounding success, I feel I've been vindicated in that. And I've made housing my #1 priority as Manhattan Borough President. And we have a problem here because in general, people support housing until it's proposed in their neighborhood. And again, I have stood up to support housing in every neighborhood across the city because this is the crisis of our moment. This is the kind of leader I have been as borough president. It's the kind of leader I'll be as comptroller.
Okay, let me ask you to both briefly maybe give some politically unpopular fiscal advice to the next mayor, starting with you, Mr. Levine.
We've got to add money to our reserve funds. We face a dire threat from Donald Trump and Republican allies in Congress who are making it clear they want to fund massive tax cuts for wealthy people on the backs of cuts to health care and food assistance and housing assistance. I have been fighting to ensure that Mayor Adams puts more money into our reserve funds now in the budget we're about to pass. May not be politically popular, but it's the best way to protect us against cuts going forward.
Okay, Mr. Brannan.
We can't run a city on reserves. So what I would say to the next mayor is you have to deploy money into the communities that need it most. Our city is under attack in the crosshairs by Donald Trump and his gang of maniacs. What we need right now is to make sure our vulnerable communities are taken care of. If you want to add to the reserves, that means you have to cut from somewhere. And this is not a time to cut. We have almost $9 billion in reserves. So for the next mayor, make sure you invest in things that are popular, that working families need, because that's what this moment calls for.
Thank you very much.
Hi, candidates. Good to see you. Mr. Levine, you get the first shot at the question in this round. Donald Trump's name has already been mentioned, and the current comptroller, Brad Lander, recently alerted the public that the Trump administration seized $80 million from one of the city's bank accounts, an action that led to a lawsuit and to a discussion about whether the next comptroller should, quote, Trump-proof city government. So if elected, talk about what you would do to protect the city from adverse actions of the federal government.
Look, Donald Trump is a major threat to the city. He is attacking our people. He's tearing apart immigrant families. He's attacking LGBTQ New Yorkers. He's wrecking our economy. He's literally stealing money out of our budget. I will use the powers of the comptroller's office to fight back on every front. I will organize blue city and blue state pension funds around the country to use our collective power to say to CEOs, you can't give in to the Trump agenda. You can't abandon commitments to diversity or climate or worker safety. I'll fight to make sure that the comptroller has the power to sue the federal government, even if the mayor's law department will not do so. And as I mentioned, I'll fight to make sure we have a budget which gives us a buffer against the cuts ahead by ensuring we add money now to our pension, to our reserve funds. We can do these things. I'll fight on every front to protect New York City's people, our budget, and our economy from the threat that is Donald Trump.
Mr. Brannan, same question.
Look, Donald Trump is an existential threat to our city. His big, beautiful bill, or whatever the hell he calls it, is a heat-seeking missile directed directly at the city of New York and our most vulnerable. In this moment, elected officials at all levels of government, they have a responsibility to stand in the breach between Trump and our most vulnerable. We should not, as politicians, be asking more of the people. The people should be asking more of us. That this is our moment to use the power of our privilege and the privilege of our power to stand up for you. Making sure that we have everything we need, making sure that our city is deploying money into the communities that need it most is our most important priority right now, because Donald Trump is coming for us. So what we need right now is a fighter and not a letter writer. City Hall took 2 weeks to sue back when Elon Musk took $80 million from our account. That is not the urgency of this moment. We need someone willing to stand up and fight, and I'm that guy.
Quick follow-up. Mr. Brannan, you first. Has the Trump administration taken any actions that have helped the city financially?
Not that I've seen just yet, Brian.
Mr. Levine?
No, they are killing tourism, which is our lifeblood. They have taken money out of public health. We've already faced cuts in our health department. They are threatening to cut Medicaid, which 4 million New Yorkers rely on. They're threatening to cut food stamps, which 1.8 million New Yorkers rely on. They're threatening to cut assistance for public housing and rental vouchers. This is devastating. What they are doing is devastating. And I want to say it again. Their goal is to fund tax cuts for millionaires and billionaires by cutting essential services to people in need.
And Mr. Levine, what if Mayor Adams is reelected? And of course, you'll both get this question. You both have said you see him as compromised by his dealings with President Trump. How would you engage with a second Adams administration under President Trump? Mr. Levine.
Look, the comptroller must be totally independent, as I have been totally independent from this mayor and the last. The comptroller must be unafraid to call out the failings of a mayor, and when it's in the interest of the city, to work together with them. This is who I've been, and I will take this approach to the next mayor. I will fight every day for the people of New York City, whatever the political consequences, regardless of my personal interests. Only one goal: to protect the people of the city, to fight for our economy, our budget, and for people being left behind.
Mr. Brannan.
I mean, look, we have an administration right now at City Hall that is absolutely compromised and, if not colluding with the federal government. That is why our mayor is silent on the things that matter most. Yesterday, he went on TV and was scolding and castigating protesters instead of talking to immigrant communities and saying, look, we will protect you when ICE comes to get you for no reason. We have a mayor who's in cahoots with Donald Trump. So you need someone as the next controller who has a record of standing up. It's one thing to say what you'll do in the future, but for me, for the past 3.5 years, I've fought like hell every day against Eric Adams and his crazy budget cuts, and I'll do the same thing with the next mayor.
Thank you. Alyssa.
Good evening, gentlemen. Good to see you. We're also, of course, following the Democratic primary race for mayor, with many candidates who seek to expand government spending. For example, Zohran Mamdani has gained popularity on the campaign trail with help from generous social proposals such as free buses and free childcare. Some people have been warning or concerned that the city can't afford them and that his housing plan alone would exceed the city's debt allowance. Andrew Cuomo wants to increase pension benefits for city workers. Have you evaluated these proposals, and do you feel confident that the city can afford them? So we'll start with you, Mr. Brannan.
Sure. I mean, it's my job as finance chair to figure out how much some of these programs and policies will cost when they are proposed by my colleagues and from others. I think it's a false choice to say that we can't do these big, bold ideas. I think right now, New Yorkers are looking for big, bold, aggressive solutions to the problems that they face every single day. And the fact that people say we don't have the money to do this stuff when it's time to actually help working people tells you a lot. So things like bringing down the cost of living, we need to be throwing everything we can at this. I have a proposal to invest pension funds to create a universal child care system. It's a big, bold idea. The city of New York cannot spend the next 4 years with our head under the bed waiting for Donald Trump to disappear. The laboratory cannot shut down. This is a city that came up with Mitchell-Lama, with Electchester, with Manhattan Plaza. We need to go back to the days of dreaming big and making New York City that city on the hill for everybody.
Okay, Mr. Levine.
Well, we have no choice but to pursue bold solutions because of the scale of our challenges. We're losing families in New York because they can't afford housing here, because they can't afford childcare here. We have real public safety challenges. We've got to invest in solutions. And we can, and I put forward big, bold plans in this campaign, including a proposal to invest some of our pension money in a way that's prudent, which get good returns for our retirees, and would finance the creation as much as 70,000 units of affordable housing. We can do these things. I've also put forward proposals to save money in government through modernizing and efficiency. We can do this by relying less on outside consultants and plow those savings into the services that meet people's needs in this crisis. We can do it by managing our government better, by going big, and by investing in the challenges that people face right now.
A follow-up for Mr. Brannan. Yesterday, you were just essentially endorsed by Mamdani, who is telling his supporters to donate to your campaign. Would that compromise your ability to be a check on his administration should he win?
No, I mean, my job is to be, look, I endorsed Eric Adams, and I also called on him to resign, and I've been calling him out every day for the past 3.5 years. So my job as controller would be to be that independent watchdog. Whether Adrian Adams, who's one of my closest friends, becomes the mayor or not, it's my job to hold them accountable. So the fact that others might be supporting me, it doesn't matter to me. Look, I think anyone right now that is proposing bold solutions to bring down the cost of living in this city, to make life easier for working people, those are people that I want the support of. So I appreciate anyone that supports my campaign who has that same vision.
Mr. Levine, would you care to respond to that?
I just think it's critical that the next comptroller be totally independent, that there not be a perception or reality that the comptroller owes favors to the next mayor, and I am preserving my independence in this campaign. I've been very careful about that because I want to be fiercely independent of whoever is elected mayor. As I have been in my entire career in government, I will continue to fight for people regardless of the political consequences, regardless of who's mayor. This is who I've been and who I will be.
Okay, candidates, let's move to a different topic. 9 of the last 10 controllers ended up running for mayor. Only one, this goes back to the 1950s. Only one of them was successful, and that was Abraham Beam in 1973. Do you have aspirations to seek the mayoralty or other elected office? And do you see that ambition, the need to fundraise and get union support and so on, to be at odds with the controller's role in ensuring fiscal responsibility? We'll start with you, Mr. Levine.
Well, in fairness, Errol, it's a very small sample size. But I'll say this, I'm running for my dream job. Could have run for re-election to borough president. Maybe I could have run for mayor now. But I believe that the office of the comptroller is critical, now more than ever, to protect this city. And it's a job that I've been preparing for my entire life, since my days as a public school teacher, since my days founding a community financial institution in Uptown Manhattan that's helped thousands of families get access to loans, to start businesses, to buy home computers. Since my days leading in the city council for tenants, securing the right to counsel for every person in the city facing an eviction. I'm ready for this job. This job is important at any time, more important now than ever as we face the threat of Donald Trump. This is why I'm running. It's a job I want and a job I'd be honored to serve in.
And from what you've seen or from how you see the job, would that be at odds with a controller who's seeking higher office?
Look, this job is critical to the functioning of city government, extensive functions. And you need a comptroller who's going to hunker down and do that work, who ensures that our pension funds are well managed, protecting the assets of retirees, who ensures that we're only approving contracts that meet our standards as a city, that ensures we use the power of audit and oversight, and if need be, subpoena power to hold the mayor accountable and every city agency of power accountable. This is a big job with a lot to do, and I'm going to hunker down and do this work on behalf of the people of the city.
Okay, Mr. Brannan.
Look, I'm running for controller because I have the experience, and most importantly, I think in this moment, I've got the guts. I spent the past 3.5 years now serving as finance chair, and that's prepared me for this moment. I also know what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck. I know what it's like to represent a neighborhood that's far away from City Hall. I know what it's like to have some neighborhoods used to getting the full loaf of bread, while neighborhoods in the outer boroughs are used to fighting over crumbs. And I think in this moment, people across the country are going to suddenly start to need to know who their local controllers and treasurers are because of the threat from Washington. And you need a fighter in this moment. So I'm not running for mayor. I'm not interested in running for mayor. I'm interested in running for controller. I want to be your controller. I'm not going to lie to you and say I've been dreaming about being the controller since I was 4 years old running a lemonade stand. I'm running for controller because I have the experience, I've got the guts, and I want to fight for you and your family and the neighborhoods that you call home.
Okay, and as far as the trend that we've seen, 9 of the last 10 controllers running for higher office, does that impair their ability to be effective and independent, do you think?
I don't think it impairs their ability. I think it might color the lens a little bit, because you never want to take gratuitous shots just for the sake of taking gratuitous shots. And I think once you decide you're running for higher office, then suddenly everything takes on that color and that tone. So I think you want to be independent, and you need to be only accountable to the taxpayers, but you don't want to attack the mayor just because you're looking to take his job.
Okay.
Mr. Brannan, you're up first in this section, and the topic is pension funds, which of course the controller oversees. Pension funds are often targets for social investment or social divestment. As you know, the city has previously divested from tobacco